Good afternoon. It is an honor to stand here before you today at the McKinley High Alumni Center, a place that holds so much history and pride and promise for our community. Both this center itself, for its place as a place of community, fellowship, and organizing, and the high school it represents, my alma mater, McKinley Senior High. As a proud member of the class of 2006, McKinley isn't just where a key part of my journey started, it's where dreams were nurtured, where lessons were learned, and where the foundation was laid for my commitment to serving our district, obviously under the leadership of the great Principal Armin Brown. McKinley, which everyone knows, or at least those of us alumni assume everyone knows, was the oldest high school in EBR for black students and graduated Louisiana's first black high school graduates in 1916. It has always been a beacon of hope and resilience, much like our community. As we gather here, I am reminded of the strength we have shown through challenges and the promise we hold for a brighter future. McKinley is a symbol of both our history and our potential. And it's with that legacy in mind, and on the shoulders of the giants who built it, that I formally announce my candidacy for the Louisiana State Senate to humbly represent my neighbors and family here in District 14. District 14 is a particularly important district in Louisiana. As one of the smaller geographical districts, it's one of the most historic and culturally rich in the state. It includes both Southern University and LSU, where I earned my law degree. It includes downtown, Mid-City, the Garden District, and Spanish Town. It includes historic neighborhoods like Brookstown, Fairfields, Eden Park, and Melrose. Every politician likes to say their district is the heart of wherever they're running, but it's hard to argue that District 14 is anything short of as representative of Baton Rouge as it gets. Much like Baton Rouge as a whole, there are rich parts of Baton Rouge, and there are poor parts. There are significant areas of segregation in District 14, and there are areas teeming with diversity. There are parts of this district that have thrived in recent years with investment, but too many other parts have fallen behind. This is a district many people think of when they think of Baton Rouge. Much like other areas in this town, District 14 has been let down by a political system that prioritizes inside baseball over passionate advocacy. I'm running because I have a vision for what bold, unapologetic leadership looks like. I'm running because too many of our leaders run out of personal ambition and fail to answer the quintessential question that every politician should have to answer when they run. What is in it for the people that you serve? I envision a Louisiana where wages rise with the cost of living, not lag behind it. When people are paid what they're worth, the investment comes back tenfold. It strengthens our economy, it fuels local businesses, it fosters better jobs. Most Americans work for small businesses. Those businesses treat people better, they pay better, and they're invested in our communities. They are often the employers that give returning individuals a second chance. They hire our veterans. They sponsor our community events. By building an economy where small businesses thrive, we create a sustainable cycle of growth and opportunity for all. I envision a Louisiana where starting a business is straightforward and where we encourage persistence and iteration. Success often doesn't come on the first try, and our policies should reflect that because we want people to succeed. I envision a public school system that makes good on the promise of being the great equalizer. The promise of the American dream is premised on this idea that all any American has to do is work hard and play by the rules, and they have a fighting shot at a prosperous future. Unfortunately, in reality, we haven't held up our end of the bargain, and that starts with our community-based public schools. The premise of public schools is that no matter where you are or where you live, the one around the corner is as good of an education as you can get anywhere else. It's to level the playing field to make sure that poor kids that grow up in poor neighborhoods aren't compounding their circumstances by having to go to poor schools. And then ultimately, they're judged unfavorably when applying for colleges or jobs. If the one thing that we can guarantee is that no matter what school you went to, you got a great education, then the promise of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps becomes a little bit more real. That's why public schools matter. They should be our top priority, not an afterthought. Public schools are not corporations. They are public institutions meant for the general welfare. If they are failing, it is our obligation to fix them, not abandon them. Instead, here in Louisiana, we have allowed a defeatist mentality to seep into our approach to public education, and it has enabled a host of private interests to take advantage. If private schools want to operate, they should fund themselves. Public dollars belong in public schools. especially with the current state of our school system here. And charter schools, while they have a place, and I want to be clear, I went to a charter school, East Baton Rouge Arts and Technology School with the unfortunate acronym of EBRATS. I appreciate the value of charter schools, but they should be a complement, not an undermining of our community-based schools. They are supposed to be a laboratory of innovation where experimentation is encouraged and positive results can ultimately be adopted by the broader school system. Unfortunately, weak leadership has allowed our public schools to fail while private interests have exploited the system. We need to reinvest in public education, ensuring that every child has the resources to thrive and doesn't have to move or be in a lottery or pay a tuition or be subject to an application process to do so. I envision a Louisiana where workers are not just respected but protected and treated as equal partners in our goal to make Louisiana as prosperous as possible. That means being proactive about looking out for workers' rights and their interests. As AI and automation reshape the workforce, protecting workers is more important than ever. We need state-level policies that mirror the principles of the Federal PRO Act, safeguarding the right to organize and ensuring fair treatment for all. And we must think ahead to protect wages and jobs in an AI-driven economy. This is about standing up for people over profits. I envision a safer community where families, no matter what zip code you live in, have the assurance that their neighborhoods are protected and their kids are safe. But that doesn't happen by hoping for it. And it most certainly doesn't happen by doubling down on failed policies. I was at the prayer vigil for Reggie Hunter on Friday night on Plank and Evangeline. And even Police Chief Morse said that public safety is more than just policing. And I agree, he's right. Public safety has to be multifaceted. And if we're serious about reducing crime, not just serious about looking like we're reducing crime, but actually reducing the crime rate, it has to be an all-hands-on-deck by any means necessary approach. And sometimes you're not going to like what those solutions look like because it's not going to feel like it's fair. If the way that we have to reduce crime is to improve our education system, then so be it. If we have to better jobs and skills, if we have to have better jobs and skills training to be able to reduce recidivism, then so be it. If it means beautifying our neighborhoods and eliminating blight, then so be it. But it can't simply be about hiring more police officers and locking people up longer. That just kicks the can down the road. It doesn't fix the potholes. I envision a Louisiana where health care is a right, not a privilege. I do not believe that people should get the health care they can afford because logically that means that some people can be too poor to live. And if you don't like that dichotomy either, then maybe you believe health care is a right too. I want to see Louisiana embrace Medicaid expansion to the fullest extent possible, and I'll vote for it every single time. I want to see us reinvest in the charity hospital system to give not only options for indigent patients, but access. And if we bring it back, a system that, let's be honest, delivered a hell of a lot of babies and cared for a hell of a lot more of our loved ones across this state, if we bring that system back, it needs to be invested in with the same quality and care you would want a facility taking care of your loved one to be in. I know that my mom understands this as well. She had a procedure at Earl K. Long, and while we are very grateful for their availability, when she was sometimes on that elevator that looked like a freight elevator, you look in the corner and there's just dirt and there's mold and all sorts of things. And people just tolerated it because they figured, well, at least we're getting health care. We can do better. I will fight to make sure that no matter who you are, where you live, how much you make, or what your gender is, your access to health care will not be denied. We are too rich a nation and too smart a people to let the most vulnerable among us wallow in illness and debt. This is my vision, and this is what I'll campaign on for the next month, hopefully the next month. Raising wages, protecting workers, improving education, reducing crime, and expanding access to health care. That's what I believe my community expects out of its next representative, and that's the North Star that I intend to follow. But now I want to speak to my party. I am not running to be brought into the fold. I am not running to sit at the cool kids table. I'm running because the cool kids have gotten too comfortable with the shrinking table that's increasingly only addressing their needs and sells out the interests of the communities that they represent. As a partisan, you should want leaders who understand the assignment and are willing to publicly fight for our stated values. That's how you organize. That's how you educate. And most importantly, that's how you win elections. I'll give you an example. In this most recent tax fight, Democrats rolled over for a regressive tax bill that was a multi-billion-dollar Christmas giveaway to the wealthy while making life even more expensive for the working people who just rejected us electorally, in part because of inflation. I hear naysayers who whine and say, well, Republicans were going to pass the bill anyway, what do you want me to do? Stand on principle. Make a case. Fight the fight. But Democrats gave up. They gave in. And I might add, not to be negative, that both of my opponents in this race, either one of them voted for it, and the other one said that they would. And while they think that they're playing 4D chess, while Democrats in the legislature and the super minority that they've gotten very comfortable in think that they're playing 4D chess, the communities that they were elected to serve, to advocate for, to represent, got screwed. This was not an ingenious strategy. This was emblematic of a party, of a system, of a state where politicians do not work for the people. They work for the moneyed interests who paid for them. This is not about being idealistic. If you actually care about the long-term sustainability of our party, if you care about competitiveness, if you care about one day being in the majority, about electing a governor, then you should care about the lack of a fight on the part of our current leadership. When Jeff Landry introduced that godforsaken tax proposal, Democrats should have been crisscrossing the state, explaining the dangers of regressive taxation. We should have hung this bill around the proverbial neck of Republicans and made clear that this is the sort of crony capitalism that we were exactly elected to fight against. And yet, Democrats cave because they're comfortable in the minority. They're comfortable with their little slice of personal power. They like having titles. They like being recognized around town. They like going to receptions and parties. And if all they have to do is play nice in that seemingly un-air-conditioned building from time to time to keep their grip on increasingly shrinking amounts of power, they will do it. Republicans have been playing Democrats in this state for years, and Democrats go along with it because the ones who get elected aren't independent enough to challenge a system we've all grown up with. But I know we can do better. I learned a lot during my congressional race. I was by far the least well-known of my opponents. So I didn't have the luxury to only campaign exclusively for Democratic votes or liberal votes. I had to knock on every single door, whether it had Black Lives Matter yard sign or a Blue Lives Matter flag. And while I won't lie to you and tell you that I converted everyone that I spoke to, I learned a lot of good. I learned that we're not nearly as divisive as our cable news segments would suggest or our social media feeds would encourage. I learned that most people want similar things. They want good jobs with fair wages. They want a safe and healthy community. They want good schools, and when they need it, they want access to health care. I learned that most Louisianans don't hate each other. I learned that most of them are like you and I, just doing the best that they can to make the most out of what they've got. But I also learned a lot about reality. I learned that, particularly in Democratic politics, we are more transactional than inspirational. Practically speaking, these jobs, these titles, like Louisiana State Senator, are seen more so as conduits to paychecks, to contracts, to appointments, and other types of benefits than they are as conductors of change. And I understand. For generations, politicians have come into our community talking a big game, promising all kinds of things, and then they get elected, and for whatever reason, the promises fall through. And it's one thing to be lied to, but at least you got paid. It's another thing to be lied to, and you're still broke on the other side. So I get it. But that's one of the reasons why these campaigns have to be hard. Power concedes nothing. A few months ago, I was told that there was a very specific chain of succession for this specific seat. Larry Selders would be slotted in as state senator. Carolyn Coleman, our current representative on the Metro Council, would then be slotted in as House representative. And if I played ball, maybe I could find myself a nice little spot on the Metro Council. Most people in this town would have taken that deal because the point is simply to be at the table. It's not to be impactful when you get there. So it doesn't matter how you got there. It doesn't matter what deals you make. It doesn't matter whose money you take. It doesn't matter what promises you make or break. It just matters that you slide on in. Don't break anything. And when asked, do as you're told. If I had taken that deal, I would have been rendered just as ineffective as everyone else that we've elected. I would have been co-opted by a political system and a machine that cares more about protecting the interests of some bougie politicians and their contractor friends than fighting for the people who elected them. I would never disrespect my community by misrepresenting myself as a representative of them, when in reality, I represent the interests of those who paid for me. I know change is hard, and I know that skepticism runs deep. I am fully aware that should I win, this is a part-time paycheck, but it's a full-time job. I know, though, that we're better than what we've been relegated to for the last 25 years. We keep settling because deep down inside, we're worried that maybe this is as good as it gets. But trust me, it's not. We can do so much more. We can be so much more. We have so much potential. We have so much talent, culture, drive, and optimism. But as my mom would say, we can't keep throwing our pearls before swine. We can't keep selling ourselves short and then wonder why we keep getting sold out by the politicians we elect. So I'm asking for your trust. Suspend your pessimism for just this one election and give me the chance to prove that we can do better. I'm not promising the world, but I am promising that I'll work harder, I'll fight smarter, and I will represent you better than anyone else in this race. My name is Quentin Anthony Anderson. I'm a candidate for the Louisiana State Senate here in District 14, and I'm asking for your vote because I want to fight for you. Thank you, and God bless Baton Rouge.